Hello, this is NearlyNewModels with my eBay triple-shot cyclone shotgun shell. This is the installation video on how to install this, and what you will get is you will replace one of these with a shot that fires 3 of these. What you get in this kit is my triple-shot cylinder, and you get a power spring spacer, and you get 2 little shims just in case you need them to go in the front here, and I'll show you how to install those if you need those later. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take apart the gun. There's quite a few screws in this gun. I have very few screws in my gun because I take this apart. Every cylinder I make I put in this gun and I test fire it and make sure that everything fires properly and that it works perfect. So we will take these out, take this piece off, and then you remove the other screws. There's 2 more on this. And then this piece comes off. Now you can get to the screws that are hidden beneath here. And I just have one here. And then I have one up front. But there is the other screws that are real obvious where they are. So you remove these. And then you remove the upper part of the shell and set it aside. And now you can get to the internals. And what you will do first is you will just take and simply pick up and remove your old cylinder. And then you will install my cylinder. But first, before you do that, you will want to do some shell cutting because these triple shots, they fire and they spread. So you want as little in front of the gun as possible. So I cut it right above the top here and right here. But you're welcome to cut anywhere that you feel comfortable with cutting. Some people have got away with cutting nothing off the front of the gun and putting a larger barrel on it, and that looks great too. So it just depends on what look you're going for. You may want to try it and see if it gets hung up, and if it doesn't, then great. So you take this cylinder, you install it here. It's keyed on the bottom. You install it, slide it onto the white nylon shaft, and push it in as far as it will go. And this will set in this spot here. The reason these 2 shims are included is I give you 2 of these just in case you need them. You probably will not need them. You do not want any space here at the front between where this part rotates and it gets larger here. Because if this flexes any at all, it does not put good pressure and you won't get a good seal back here. So you may need those. You most likely will not, but they are included just in case you need them. Okay, to install the spring power spacer, it's very flexy. It has a slot in it. This is very flexible, so you will not break it. You might think you're going to break it. What you do is you take the gun, rotate it around, lift up slightly on the piston, and work the slot around so that it goes, and then that drops right there. Now you have the spring spacer installed, and you'll notice that this is a fairly large spacer. That is because this spring does not compress fully. This will give you about 3 to 5 FPS more power just by installing that free kit. So now you are ready to put your gun back together. All you do to put it back together is put the shell pieces together, put all your screws back in, and like I mentioned before, if you have a gap here, the gun will not fire good. You do not want any gap up at the front of your gun. That's what these are for. If you need to install those, you can install them after you put the gun together just simply by pushing and clicking them in. If you have too much pressure up here, it will put too much pressure on the cylinder, and then when you prime the gun, it will not rotate. So there's a fine line between how much you want. Generally, if you just cut off what I cut off, you will be perfectly fine. So put all these screws back in here. The 2 that hold back here. And I only use 2 screws for my gun. One in the front and one in the back. So we put those in. Put the bottom piece in and make sure that it does catch the white part before you put the 2 halves together. Otherwise, when you go to, actually you will want to put this spring on here, back on. Actually, that's not the right hole. It goes on this That is a little tricky to do. I did not have that hooked up originally. It goes on this back hole here. So make sure you have caught the white mechanism and your spring, otherwise it will not return to fire. I usually do not hook that back up. Put these two pieces back together and put the screw in here, 2 screws back here, load it up, and you are ready to fire. I loaded the wrong one. Then you are ready to fire.